Comics. Comics. You're listening to Around Comics.
From, well, kind of Chicago and Wisconsin and I don't know where else, all over the globe. We'll just say we're from everywhere. It's Around Comics, the comic book podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Salazar, and with me as always is my partner in crime, Christopher Niesman. What's up, Christopher Niesman?
Hey, bud. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrific.
The guy who 2 months ago, no, 6 weeks ago, a month ago said, yeah, baseball, yeah, I don't know. We'll see if I can get into it. I'm getting texts from like, the Sox are really good.
Best team in baseball. I'm sorry, they're the best team in baseball right now by any metric.
You are on the bandwagon hard. I say that knowing that you are a lifelong White Sox fan, and yes, they are absolutely fun to watch, and I am rooting for them as my Cardinals just finally got off of their 3-game losing streak, and they helped you out a little bit today. They beat the Indians today. So
thank you. We need them. We need those Indians. Although the Indians seem to be like thinking about trading away. I read a story like the Indians and White Sox are working on a trade for a pitcher. I'm like, oh, that makes no sense whatsoever. Why would the Indians trade?
Because it's 2020. Nothing makes any sense.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. Well, hey, we've got a guest tonight. Tom is a little under the weather, and so we're like, you know what? There's a guy out there that has been one of our friends, fan of the show, just all around great guy. We know him through the show, but have also gone to a baseball game with him. He's one of our favorite people. He is the designer of this here Around Comics shirt, which dates back to about 2007. I think it's a awesome Cheap Trick homage. He's our good buddy Gordie Adams from the Gordcast.
Yay!
There he is.
2008, I think is what
it was. It was the 2008 World Tour.
Yeah, 2008 World Tour. Yeah. Hey, man, I can't believe it. Dream come true. Being on Around. I mean, I've had a lot of dreams, but this may not have been ever. Like most of my dreams are based on delivering mail in a city that's kind of my city. But being on a podcast with friends, that doesn't really show up in my dreams. But you know, this is really cool. And also, the Cardinals won, the Pirates won, and the White Sox won in completely separate games that weren't against each other. So
it's a good day in baseball.
It's a good day in baseball. We can get at each other's throats at another time, but not tonight.
Well, whenever the Pirates are better.
See, okay, right. Well, that's the thing is I have been loving baseball this year, even though it's the weirdest season ever. I am also totally like I get that the Pirates aren't good, so I don't say it's like, well, you know, if they just, you know, if that guy wouldn't have done that thing, it's just like, no, the pitching sucks and the batting should. There was a game where they went back and forth and it was like 17-17 one game, so I know that they're capable, but
well, Sal will tell you about a game where they didn't have any hits.
Oh yeah. Oh. Was that last week? That was last week, right?
Yeah, it was against his White Sox.
I know. They played the White Sox. Yeah, I missed that game, but yeah.
I'm so sort of entrenched in bad baseball for so long.
Right.
Mostly been a bad team like my entire life. Like they've had a few, you know, they had a good 2005 and they've had
2005 was pretty good.
But for the most part, they've been a pretty bad baseball team. So I'm watching this team and I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like I keep waiting.
Don't.
And it's like
they're going to be good.
They're pretty good.
They are just scratching the surface of how good they're going to be. And this is me as a Cardinals fan, and you know how unapologetic I am about that. The White Sox are going to be awesome. Like next year, they're going to be awesome.
They look good.
Robert hit a game-winning 10th inning home run to like left center field that it was like a half swing. He just sort of like one-armed it and the thing went 400 feet and it's just like that dude is ridiculous.
Well,
I don't understand how that happens ever.
when scouts talk about a guy as a generational talent, that kind of makes you peek, up your ears and go, okay. And then whenever his teammates start nicknaming him Trout,
he's the Panther. He's the Black Panther.
Moment of silence, by the way.
I knew we were going to get to it. That's pretty soon.
Yeah, it's 2020 continues to be just a big kick in the nuts.
Yeah, that was a little shocking. That Chadwick Boseman at 43.
43.
That's crazy. Colon cancer. He's been fighting it for 4 years. He dies on not only Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball. He played Jackie Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Birthday.
And Jack Kirby's birthday, who created Black Panther the same day.
Right.
Very bizarre. But yeah, I don't like it. Really, 2020 really sucks, but 2020 really sucks if you're Black. Like, really, I can't imagine.
Yes.
How exhausted, I it's just like
the only thing I can say to maybe counter that, and this is me as a middle-aged white guy, is that finally people are hopefully starting to listen.
Some people are. Some people are. No, some people are. But there are still some people who are posting up crazy shit on Facebook. Like, I'm not gonna apologize for being white. It's like, nobody asked you. Nobody asked you to apologize for being white. Nobody.
I live in a very Milwaukee is an incredibly segregated city. It's one of the most segregated cities in America. I live in one of the few neighborhoods that is somewhat diverse. I have Black neighbors across the street and several on the block, and so it's one of the actual integrated neighborhoods in Milwaukee. But just south of me is Wauwatosa, which is a very, very white collar suburb. And I jog there in the morning, and the amount of Black Lives Matter yard signs in Wauwatosa is pretty amazing. That you have a majority white, affluent, suburban community that has BLM signs out in their front yards. That, I think, is the difference, that not everybody, especially in a lot of super rural and conservative areas, you're not seeing it. But white people are starting to get the freaking message that that stuff is stuff's messed up and they got to pay attention to it. So, and it's, to bring it back to comics, I think it's movies like Black Panther that have some amount of reason why people are maybe a little bit more aware of that. And you take it back into even farther, and it's comic books that brought those characters to the forefront that even 70 years ago are starting to resonate. I mean, you look at what Kirby and Lee did, and even bringing a character like Black Panther into Marvel Comics. At some point people got to take notice of it, right?
And you guys brought it up last episode, talking about Watchmen, the HBO TV series, and how that kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes. And I have to be honest, I've been Martin Luther King and Gandhi were like brought to me when I was 3 years old, 4 years old in early 70s, but nobody so my parents were super, I hate to say woke, but they were, they knew what was up. But nobody knew about
1970s. They were very woke.
No, but I'm saying that nobody knew about Tulsa. And so it was the HBO series Watchmen that all of a sudden opened up people's eyes about this horrible shit that happened. That's crazy. But once again, comics reach out, and they just reach out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty cynical person. Anyone that knows
what?
That.
No. Wait a minute here. Wait a minute.
But like, and like when Black Panther came out, my initial reaction to anything that people enjoy is to sort of shit on it. But the
movie.
Yeah, the movie. Yeah,
the movie. Okay. Yeah.
And not that I shit on it. I mean, it's a terrific movie, but it was sort of just like,
You entered it with a skeptical eye of, okay, is it really good, or is this people just giving it lip service?
Yeah, is it?
That's you.
But it's like, over time, it's just sort of like I can't pretend to understand necessarily the importance of that movie to people of color, but I can't deny that, it's got to be gut wrenching that, to sort of have any sort of glimmer of hope, if there has been in the last few years, like that movie was one moment in time that I think, if you were Black, that there's at least some kind of joyous thing that
it's the biggest movie in the world.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like that.
Yeah,
and it's just like, Jesus, to lose that guy now. And I know it's just a movie. It's just he's just an actor. But
he wasn't just an actor. I mean, he was.
No, I know, but I mean, like this stuff is important. It is, it's like we all grew up reading comics and having plenty of characters that we can identify with, for whatever reason, and that's not always the case for everyone. So to have someone. And same goes for movies, movies and TV shows. Like, for the most part, the three of us growing up, I'm sure didn't have much problem finding someone in a movie that we could, bond with or identify with, that kind of thing.
Oh, I don't know. Everyone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this necessarily.
It's such an obvious thing. I got called out years ago because I said that, somewhere on Facebook or somewhere social media, where I was like, I don't need to see myself represented. I don't need to see a guy who looks like me. I don't need to see a movie about a mailman. I don't need to see a movie about, a nerd guy.
They did the Kevin Costner thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
good.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast. Right. But what was told to me was very clear. It's just like, well, you're used to seeing your thing, so that's why you don't understand it when you don't get the representation. So we can go back to baseball if you want real quickly. One of my favorite movies of all time and my favorite sports movie is A League of Their Own. And it took how long for a movie to be made about women playing sports who were strong and awesome and cool?
I'm gonna bring this all together.
Okay.
Where was A League of Their Own? Where was that based?
Midwest, right?
No. Yes, in the Midwest. It was Rockford. It was the Rockford Peaches.
Oh, okay.
Where
Cheap Trick. Okay, good job.
Is from Rockford, Illinois.
That's why we're friends.
See, it all comes together.
And we all know Rockford is the hub of progressiveness in Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go to the voting. Let's go to the voting. Yeah. Anyway, so my point was being that I completely understood how Black Panther hit on so many levels with people who wanted to be seen for the first time and strong, and women and Black women that were strong and science based and I think
there's a certain natural reaction in some ways of like, oh, well, what's the big deal? Like, I can watch a movie with a Black lead character and I can identify with that character. I can watch a movie with a gay main character and identify with that character. Why can't? And it's like, well, they have. That's the only choice that people have had
their whole life.
And like, that sort of understanding, is just a change of perspective. I think that comes, hopefully comes, but it unfortunately creates so much pushback. It creates, like there's a wall that some people just will use it to sort of stand up against, as opposed to actually learn anything or change. It's hard to change people's minds, but hopefully slowly but surely. I don't know. Personally, I'm ready to go to like Mexico and get the fuck out of the country.
We're looking at Portugal.
Portugal
and Tasmania. I think that's where Marta and I. Those are the
everyone's looking at New Zealand. Everyone's looking at New Zealand. There's a very progressive woman in charge of everything. It's got this big.
You have to be like under 40, because they're like, no, fuck off. No. Seriously, I think you have to be under the age of 40 to move to New Zealand because they don't want our garbage.
Right.
But we are looking at Tasmania.
Even smaller.
It's smaller. We're from Wisconsin, which has small angry mammals. So we figure it's a good translation. Badgers to Tasmanian devils.
Are there actually badgers in Wisconsin, or is it just the football team?
I've never actually seen a badger, but I have imagined kind of a northern Wisconsin.
I mean, in real life. I got you.
Yeah, like face to face. I imagine it's like a northern Wisconsin thing. So
Brian May is like super into badgers and saving the badgers in England. Hey, let's talk about music all of a sudden. Hey, Gordie was going to go to music. How weird. Brian May he's in charge of, or not in charge of, but he like super promotes.
He's in charge of the badgers in England.
He's in charge of there's like crazy videos of badgers playing flying V guitars and stuff.
Scientist, right? I mean, he's like a bona fide
scientist. He's an astrophysicist. Yeah, he's an actual degree in astrophysicism. Yeah. Anyway, so if you want to talk badgers, just call Brian.
Bring up Brian May.
Yeah.
So Gordo, whenever you are not talking about comics and music, and we have to plug the Gordcast.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, so go check out the Gordcast, and I think we've been teasing each other all COVID long about talking about some of our favorite 1970s movies. I think we're going to talk Slapshot and
Bingo Long's Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little some Gene Hackman movies and some other stuff. But whenever you are not doing the Gordcast and talking about comics and music, you are a postal employee.
Yes.
And one of the greatest postal employees in the universe.
Or so I've heard, yes.
So first of all, thank you for being essential and helping to guide us through this COVID nightmare and protecting our democracy. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm really doing my best. And also very thankful and grateful that throughout all this thing, my job was completely like set. I didn't have to worry about not paying bills. Like people, they always talk about you're like 2 paychecks away from being homeless. I've been, what has it been? 6 months? Five months?
It's like 8 years.
Yeah.
Like
it seems like crazy. And overtime because Amazon, because everybody needs their shit. And also, everybody needs their stuff that makes them happy that they get through Amazon, which keeps me employed. So yes, but it's also it's a privilege to be part of other people's lives too, while I get to do my job. Like so many people are just in cubicles, or they're not doing things, or or they're pretending to be nice while they're giving you their food at a restaurant or something. Whereas I'm literally walking the streets, hanging out with people. I had this lady who I run into all the time, who lives on where I walk, and she just said, "I'm going to walk with you today." And she walked with me for like a half hour, and she told me her life story about growing up in the 40s and how many dads she had and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, This is why I like being a podcast person. It's just like I like to hear what everybody else has gone through. I'm boring. You don't want to hear about my life, but man, I love to listen to other people and have a conversation. That's what's so great about this. So anyway, yeah, I'm very lucky that very lucky.
Great mailman as well. Like our mailman, he's been the same guy for, I don't know, at least a decade, if not longer.
Yeah.
Like he, if I'm outside when he comes by, we always chat for a while, but like he'll, I've come home and like he's playing catch with my son, on the front yard. It's summer and like Jack's home and stuff like that, or like he messes with the dogs a little bit and
right.
Yeah,
I've totally shot hoops with people on my route.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, over Christmas, you actually like get dressed up in like Charles Dickens.
Yes, I do.
Fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
which is, you've posted pictures on Facebook. Sal, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of him on his Christmas route.
I have.
It's amazing. It is. Yeah. You're like the best mailman in the world. I want you to move to Wisconsin and be my mailman.
Okay. All right. Well, when I retire, I'll just do it for free, though, if I retire and come.
Now,
come
are you in Northern California or are you in Oregon?
I'm in the Napa Valley, which is north of San Francisco by about an hour. And then I'm a little bit north of that in St. Helena. So, yeah.
So you're
Napa
still
Valley. Yes, totally. Okay. I was thinking about moving to Oregon at one point, and so we've been friends for so long. Maybe I would have said, "Hey, eventually I'm going to go there." But at this point, yeah, still in the Napa Valley and doing my thing. And back to what Sal was saying about his carrier is, I've been in this town. It's a very small town for 30 years, and I literally know where everybody lives and their name and what kind of car they drive and.
This is the point in the show. This is the point in the show. If Tom was here, we would start talking about over the road truckers and how mailmen and truckers
serial killer. Yeah. No, on this. Well, that's the point. Is this town is so small that I couldn't get away with any of that. As soon as someone died, they would go, "Yeah, that was probably that guy." No, but I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it's a fun party trick that when I meet somebody and they tell me their name, I go, "Oh, you live on, that street." And it's like, you used to live on that street. And but they know that I'm just being, I'm just the mailman. I literally don't care anything about their life. I just know about it.
You just deliver their mail.
I don't know. I just start thinking about the TV show. Have you guys watched Mindhunter?
Oh yeah.
Show?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah.
The BTK killer worked for ADT Security Systems.
Right, he was a Boy Scout.
He would
volunteer or whatever. Yeah.
It reminds me of 1 Hour Photo. You guys ever seen 1 Hour Photo?
Yeah. Robin Williams. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. One of my favorite Robin Williams roles because it's so horrible. I mean, it's just Robin Williams is serial.
Dark humor. Yeah.
Mindhunter, by the way, Sal, have you watched Hamilton on the Disney Plus yet?
Oh, of course, yes. My daughter has made us watch it like 3 times already.
So,
I saw the play live.
Oh, that's right, you did see it live. So, in the New York production, King George.
Okay,
that's the main actor in Mindhunter.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
my wife doesn't understand why he spits so much as King George.
That's part of the character because he was mad. He was mad. He was mad King George.
I don't know, man.
He's mad King George. Yeah,
an awful lot. He spits an awful lot. He's very.
No. Look up on YouTube.
In this time of COVID, no spitting. Come on.
That was very much planned because he was mad King George and he wanted to come off as absolutely unhinged, and that was part of the spitting.
All right.
True story.
He's definitely spit plenty.
Yeah, he spit a lot, like intentionally spit. Yeah.
He was very good. There they are. It's a great play, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, my daughter always is kind of weirded out because she's a huge Hamilton fan. I mean, she listens to the soundtrack daily.
Really? That's awesome. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Every day she listens to that thing. And she's watched it a dozen times, probably on Disney Plus. But she always gets a little freaked out because she also watches Mindhunter. So she's like trying to rationalize the two characters. Like, well, he's an actor. I mean, that's just
yeah, a great actor. So I told Gordie, he's like, what are we going to talk about tonight? And I said, well, we had kind of a theme from a few weeks back of different media or different forms of media that make you come back to the source material and understand it a little bit better. Oh. And we had talked about that. So a week or so ago, I started an Audible account because I drive back and forth to Janesville, Wisconsin twice a week, which is like 80 miles. So I get like 2.5 hours in the car on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get an Audible account. And what came up on Audible? The Sandman. by Neil Gaiman. And
don't spoil it for me.
No.
What?
Sandman.
You told me you were going to talk about Sandman.
That Sandman is in the Sandman. It is in there.
I haven't. I do have it. I have an Audible, but I haven't listened to it yet.
So you remember way back whenever we did the Around Comics Presents EC Comics, you did this. You put all of this together, Sal. The audio drama of the EC comic for Halloween that we did.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah,
which was awesome. It was so fun. You did the whole scripting of it and the sound effects, and it was so fun. And it was the first time I had any experience doing an audio drama.
We were way ahead of our time. Now that's like every podcast.
Everybody does it now, but yeah, we were doing that shit back in what, 2008, 2009. So the Neil Gaiman Sandman Audible series, I think it's going to be a series. So the first one, they are like legitimately line for line, panel for panel audio dramatizations of the comic.
Wow, that's amazing. And different voices for each character?
Different voices for each character, and then Neil Gaiman is the narrator.
He's the narrator. Yeah, I saw that he was the narrator, but there's other people doing, like, filling in at times.
That is a comic I have struggled with forever. Like,
right. We'll talk about it. We're going to get to it. Yeah.
I own 3 of the Absolute editions, and I've never been able to get past issue 2. It's something I've tried, and I'm just kind of, and then I put it away, and I'm like, oh, I'll just try again later. And it's one of those, I've probably read the first issue 60 times and just never gotten any farther. You know, it's just one of those. It's one of those books. We all have them. I listened to the audio drama on Audible, and it was just like, okay,
they just clicked. Wow,
I get it.
That's cool.
What was it that didn't click for you reading it?
Right. That's my question.
Listening,
I don't know. It's not like the Luther Arkwright thing, which we had talked about.
It was super. Like Luther Arkwright is. I mean,
crazy.
It's
insane.
It doesn't even make sense. Like it's dense.
It was probably I couldn't get the hook.
Let's stop real quick. When did you first read it? Like how? Like did you get it off the
first read Sandman?
Off the shelf.
No, God, no.
Okay.
Before the Absolute, I think I had the trade paperback, so I didn't pick it up off the shelf when it was being printed. I think some people will understand this. It's so British.
Yes.
And for me, that's usually not a problem, being an old Doctor Who fan. Right. But it's part of the problem that I had with Swamp Thing, and it's probably more in the art than it was anything else. And Sam Keith is awesome, but it can be hard to hook me in some of those comics. And
initial issues are not like amazing art pieces.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
they're of the time.
They're of the time and incredibly British. And so I just the hook never sank for me. But listening to the audio dramas, it kind of got me over that hump. And then once I started, it's like, oh, okay, now I can dive in. And now I'm hooked. I think I've read 12 issues in this week, and am really enjoying it. And Sandman is interesting because it's very much Gaiman's universe, but it is grounded in the DCU because you've got Constantine, you've got Etrigan, you've got Martian Manhunter. These are all like in the first 4 issues.
You bring up Batman in the third issue. Batman even shows up. Yeah.
It's Scarecrow and
whoa, hey,
there's Georgie. Hi, baby.
Hey, tripod.
Hi, little girl. Yes, for all the audio podcast folks, my three-legged 15-year-old.
Oh my God.
Oh, here we go.
No,
Dog
there's
City.
Rory. Where there's one, there's always two. If they're like Sith Lords. It's
no, like there was
the Master and Apprentice.
a gateway to hell just opened up, and here comes the demon
there's
dog.
the Master, and that is the Apprentice. Yeah.
Everyone's got that at home. Everyone's got a demon dog at home.
So I'm finally getting into Sandman, and I think for the first time as a comic fan, it was one of those comics that it was like my hidden secret, because I should love that series, and I was never able to really get into it.
Do you love it?
I don't know if I love it. I'm enjoying it.
Sal, have you read it? What's your history? Okay, the whole thing. Have you read everything?
I don't know if I've read every single thing,
but like maybe the first 3 graphic novels for sure.
Oh, I've read the entire Sandman. I've read Death. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, because there's a bunch of like ancillary, kind of books that came off.
Right.
I don't know how much. I mean, it's been a while since I've read it.
But did you read it just to read it, or did you enjoy it?
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
There's a big difference in that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of like comics fandom in general, is that you feel you need to read it. And
I think you're scratching on why Around Comics went away for a couple of years.
You're right. Okay. Homework it wasn't just homework, right?
I read it probably in trade. I wasn't buying it in single issues. So I read it in trade, I don't know when. I can't remember when I read it, but
because I know that like Swamp Thing really kind of started Vertigo,
right?
But Sandman was kind of the comic that I don't want to say it cemented Vertigo, but it certainly was one of the tentpole comics for Vertigo. And when did Sandman come out? It's 90s still, right?
No, 88, 87 or 88.
Was it that early?
Yeah. It was the 80s, because I had already sold my Sandman #1 at a comic convention in 1990, so I know that I had it for a while.
Yeah, I read it. I think I read it in the 90s initially. First time I read it, and then I read it again like when the Absolute editions came out.
Yeah. And it looks beautiful in the Absolutes. I mean, it's a great way to be introduced to the series. I'm not hating, but
I think with Sandman, I think with a lot of that Vertigo stuff, like I got into Sandman because I liked Hellblazer, and then I was like, oh, this character's from another book, and so
right.
And then I read Swamp Thing, which I'm kind of the same way with Swamp Thing. I'm not that big of a Swamp Thing fan. Like I know it's one of
hard. It's hard sometimes,
and it's not good sometimes.
Well, it's just it's the hype. It's like every single cool thing that everybody is into is you say, well, Swamp Thing is the best thing ever written. Alan Moore, pre-Watchmen, it was like, well, Alan Moore is the greatest writer ever. So Swamp Thing is going to be great. Well, it could be. The art's amazing. Oh man, that Bissonnette stuff is amazing, and I think that was a big draw with Sandman. Because when Chris told me that we were going to talk Sandman, I went to my Hoopla, which you guys introduced me to. I don't know what 20 episodes ago. Yeah, ding.
Really should
be. I love me some Hoopla. Because
local libraries have all the extra money for sponsorships.
But also, I like old stuff, and it's all at Hoopla. I told Chris this earlier when we were having a phone conversation. You've heard of those? It's on the telephone where you talk to people.
Yeah.
There was something that I wanted to check out, and I had it on my shelf, like here. But instead, I went to my iPad and read it on Hoopla because it was way easier. So I did the same thing with Sandman this afternoon.
Crush you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The comic book industry is failing because of people like me who just read stuff on the iPad, but I also own it too. So in looking at these first couple episodes or first couple issues of Sandman, it is so I mean, it's so Bernie Wrightson. It's so EC Comics. It is like it's like ghastly Graham Ingalls. It's like the thing that I grew up. I literally learned how to reading my mom's EC Comics from the 50s. I had her
How cool
issues.
is that? Your
Yeah, how
mom's
cool.
DC comic.
Right, and she had a letter in Weird Science. So
What?
yep, yeah, my wife.
awesome.
Yeah, my mom had an actual letter in 1953, I think. Weird Science, either 17 or 19, I can't remember. So I mean, literally.
How do you not have that comic?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you not have a copy of that or something? I would have that framed. Come on.
Well, because it costs money. I used to have her actual issue.
Come on, you're making that fat postal carrier fees, right?
I could probably get one for like $80, like a C. What is it? What is that? CGC 7 or 4,
Okay.
whatever. I'm not gonna. I have it in my archives, and that's good enough. I bring it up anyway.
The letters in the archives.
Do they?
Yes. Yeah. The letters are in the archives. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah. I do have actually forever. You don't have to.
What was your letter? What was your letter? What did she say?
Oh, you want me to find it?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you kidding me?
That's so cool. Yeah, like I said, Swamp Thing was a tougher read for me than Sandman. I enjoyed Sandman more so. I liked Sandman because it was like a little weirder, and I love the idea of like
the everlasting.
Yeah, just that like they were this weird family of like obtuse ideas come to life, or like concepts,
But they all start with D.
Yeah, and
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, where's the camera?
Cosmic Correspondence.
The Ruth Onsman. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
Yeah, it says, so far, I have read the 2 stories by Ray Bradbury that you've printed. Frankly, they leave me up in the air. I don't get any pleasure from a story that I can't figure out.
Oh, apropos.
Wow. So she was like digging on Ray Bradbury.
Yeah. My mom taking on Ray Bradbury.
But think of that, like what we're talking about, and how apropos is that letter is basically like, I don't like this because I don't get it. I don't understand. Yeah. I don't care who says this is great.
That's like Facebook. That's like Facebook and every other social commentary nowadays. I don't know.
Amazing. And I love that they printed that.
Yeah, me too. I'm super happy about that. I did actually have the original issue, but that's a whole nother story that is very sad that I don't want to talk about.
Okay.
Well, we won't.
Well, no, I gave a whole bunch of my mom's comics to somebody to rate, and he absconded with them and never came back.
Oh, bastard.
That sucks.
Yep. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I trust you. Why don't you figure out how what these are worth? And then bye.
Yeah.
And they were beat up. They were totally
California. I was thinking California Fire.
Oh no. They were beat up readers' copies, but that guy still
absconded. Which speaking of, are you close to the current fires? Are you all good? You're fine?
We're fine. I've been kind of Yeah. It was close. And a couple of years ago, it was super close. But smoky air, doing my job. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
Everything's fine. Yeah.
Everyone got that Star Wars reference, right?
Everything's fine. No, that is super cool. That's you gotta get that. You gotta get that issue.
Eventually I will. Eventually I'll get a good issue.
Find out what issue that was. That's amazing.
I do. But back to what I was saying originally is that when I first bought that years, off the rack, there was nothing like that. There was nothing like EC Comics that was being put out by DC or Marvel, or Dark Horse didn't even exist yet. There wasn't any anybody that was doing the stuff that I loved and grew up with, the House of Secrets, the House of Mystery, all of that creepy. I grew up with Hammer films and creature features, and I loved all that and everything at that time. I mean, I loved reading my X-Men and my Avengers and whatever. But when this showed up, it was just like, oh, this is cool. This is very cool. And in revisiting it, I don't think I knew who Sam Keith was at the time because he wasn't really relevant. Yeah. And then to find out years later,
what was he doing? The Max?
No, the Max was no. The Max was way later. But I see the road he went down. He was trying to do the EC comics. He was trying to do all of the House of Secrets, the Cain and Abel, all that kind of stuff. And I loved that so much. But then, like 4 issues in, I don't know what they were trying to do. All of a sudden, it was like funny. The first time, it was just like this super dark, gothic, weird stuff, and trying to set up what Sandman was. And then, like 3 issues in, it was just like, it's just like I don't. Maybe that's why I stopped reading it. I didn't know what it was.
It's a genre buster because because they actually end up doing a Midsummer Night's Dream, and so I really look at it as kind of Gaiman's Shakespearean romp, where you can go from tragedy to horror to comedy, and he just bounces back and forth from all of these different types of stories. I read the story, which is all in the diner with Dr. Destiny.
Mm-hmm. I haven't got that far yet. Yeah,
where he spends the 24 hours basically mentally torturing these people until they kill themselves. It is such a dark, fucking dark story. But I'm just like, this is, oh my God, it's this should have a parental advisory on this comic before anyone would read it. And then then it may go into a very comedic story, and it's, we look at it, I think now we look at it through the spyglass of Neil Gaiman and what he's been able to do as an author through different genres. Right. And he almost kind of defines his own type of storytelling. You look at something like Good Omens, which it's dark, but it's a comedy. It's
right. It's very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy style.
Yeah. And
right.
But in like 1988, 1989, when he's doing 87, when he's doing this stuff, people didn't say, "Oh, it's Neil Gaiman," right?
Right, because they didn't know who he was, right?
Yeah, this comic kind of put him on the map as a writer, and then he would go on to do novel work, prose work that made him more of an international star.
But I think also another part of what Sandman, how it got popular, was other things. You were talking about other medias. Is that like goth music was happening at the same time, and there was a whole nother thing that was happening at the same time.
Disintegration in the background.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You can listen to Susie. You can the Mission UK. All that sort of stuff was kind of happening at the same time.
Division.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And so, this isn't a criticism against Neil because he's an amazing author, but I'm sure that he was paying attention to what people were listening or what people were liking about the series. Death became integral to the story. Maybe he put it in the first place just to be a thing, but it turned out that, oh man, people like Death. So
people like the sexy girl.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm sure that he. And of course, why wouldn't you? You're going to, know your audience. You're going to ride the wave of the thing that, if you're into it. And it seems like he was into it. So it wasn't like he was compromising his integrity by going the goth way. It just was like, oh, cool. Because
how much of Dream do you think Gaiman saw as himself? Do you?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah,
all
of it.
He is like Dream is Gaiman, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
He's talked
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It became more him as the series went on. I think but yeah, it's definitely. I mean, that's not particularly novel for a writer. I mean, generally speaking, your main character is some sort of aspect of the writer. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Oh, completely right. What
but,
you know,
and I know that death was based on someone, but I can't think of who. I don't remember his sister, or someone. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was real
makes
life.
sense. Yeah,
There's,
no, it makes sense.
If there's any Neil Gaiman fans out there that are looking, for something about him to watch, I recommend. He has a masterclass on writing.
Right. That's what I was saying. Masterclass. Yeah.
Excellent. It's really good. And he talks a lot about Sandman in that and sort of the creation of it to some degree. I mean, he talks about everything that he's done, and he uses a lot of different examples of his work as he's discussing how to write. But yeah, he talks about Sandman and to some degree and the creation of it. I think part of the thing with all those Vertigo books was like, we look at Vertigo now like, oh, it was this groundbreaking thing where they really broke away from DC Comics. But at the time, it wasn't necessarily. I mean, they were still dealing with editorial, and they were still dealing with like, this is in the DC universe. So what can we get away with? What can we do? What can't we do? And all of those characters initially, they're the first year of it is sort of like you said, Batman shows up and Etrigan, the Demon, and all these different characters.
Martian Manhunter, it's. Yeah.
Then as the series goes on, they sort of take on their own life. So I think some of those early issues you kind of have to
Swamp Thing had like Justice League in it.
Oh yeah, early on.
I think that Vertigo spawns out of the House of Mystery and the kind of weird, wacky 70s and Bronze Age DC comics. I mean, those were the precursors to what would lead to Vertigo. I mean, that was the Bernie Wrightson stuff.
The Bernie Wrightson stuff. Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's all of and it goes. And honestly, it goes back to EC. It was the people that were doing EC comics that came to DC and we're doing House of Mystery and we're doing the horror comics, and that, I mean, you can almost see through Sandman. I mean, that links directly to House of Mystery with Cain and Abel. Yep. And then feeds right into Vertigo, and then Constantine has been the character that has, just because of Hellblazer's longevity, has had to bounce back and forth a couple times.
Right. So Brian, as an artist, as an artist type, as an artistic type, how's that? Let's say that better, because I don't call myself an artist either. When I look at some of the art and all the borders, like the first couple episodes, or I keep saying episode and not issue.
They are episodes.
Where is my brain? I listen. I read things in episodes. Anyway, every single border is like amazing, like super amazing. And often when I'm doing a piece, I look at it and I just go, is this too much? Am I doing too much? Am I doing too much? There's like too many lines. And you look at that and you just go, yeah, you can never do too many lines. But also, should I do that many lines?
Well, I mean, I think,
like, what do you like your art is very to me, I like what you
minimalistic. I like more of a minimalist, a simplistic
right
style. I'm not not that I don't like art like that, but I don't have a attention span.
Right.
Very bored. So like, I have to kind of get through something if I'm going to finish anything. I have to sort of like, but no, I think with them, I mean, I think they were also going for that gothic horror style too in the art of like, the sort of Baroque and just very ornamental, and that was a big part of it, was setting the tone, especially initially with those issues, and
that first run for sure.
Do you think that thought of it as a continuation of Swamp Thing, of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing?
I don't think so. I don't think Gaiman thought of it that way.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean,
stylistically, or
maybe.
is that,
I mean,
I see
Steve may have been influenced by Bissett, but I
Well,
don't.
I just see the early inclusion of Constantine and actually referencing Swamp Thing. I mean, they make a point of referencing
right, one frame. Yeah, that one frame.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's I don't know, kind of like building upon Swamp Thing in some way, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe they were looking at it as like this. This is sort of the
Because if you wanted to distance yourself
sort
from
of
it, you certainly
universe
wouldn't
of that
reference
character.
it.
I'm sorry, what?
If you wanted to distance yourself from it, you certainly wouldn't reference it.
No, but I don't think it was a matter of either. I don't think it was one or the other. I think it was just sort of like this works with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing was popular, so why would you not? You know what I mean? I don't know that they looked at it like, let's continue what Alan and Steve are doing. I don't know that they necessarily looked at it that way. Maybe I have no idea. I mean, you'd have to, I'm sure.
And this is me in 2020 reading this really kind of in depth for the first time, where I've got almost 30 years of Hellblazer to kind of buttressed against, where this is being written, where Hellblazer is, Constantine is at that point a new character, right? He's maybe 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So it's
but I think it just works with the sort of. I mean, if you're going to bring a character in from DC, are you going to bring in, Wonder Woman to what you're doing? Like, it doesn't.
That's what they did in Swamp Thing.
But it's like, well, let's use a character that makes sense. Where the hell's he going? Why does he ask me a question and he walks away?
You can't walk away.
If I wasn't such a fanboy on Twitter, I probably could have asked Neil Gaiman, because there was a short period of time where I had an opportunity to maybe, have a conversation with Neil Gaiman, and I fucked that up royally. So
yeah, it's what we do, Sal.
It's also maybe, I think a lot of his writing also was a lot of inside jokes or inside things. Like when he meets when he meets the ladies, the Hecubi, and they all have different names and he throws different things in. I'm sure those are, some weird reference. Like if you were to, reference the Marx Brothers and say swordfish, it's like something that, is a reference that he did. So some of those things show up, just to have the reader. Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention?
That out of the early issues, is the Lucifer that he meets in hell, is it the Lucifer that would later come out of the comics?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I haven't got that far.
Yeah,
no, maybe.
Technically,
Technically,
it is. I mean, it's the same Lucifer. I think it was. That was written by. Gosh, who wrote the Lucifer series? I can't think of the writer off the top of my head. Wasn't Dan Abnett, was it? I don't remember, but that was much later, so it's hard to say whether, it was the same. He probably was inspired by that character and then went, "Oh, we could do this." Mike Carey, there you go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you would have given me a heads up that we were talking about this, because I would have.
You're doing great. What do you mean? What are you talking about? You're doing great.
There's so much more I could be adding to this if I had like an inkling of research I had done. I just can't remember this stuff.
Sorry,
it's been a while since I read it, so it's like I don't.
It's good. You're good on your feet, man. We're showing off your strength, man.
Yeah, I can bullshit with the best of them.
Well, that's what a conversation would be like if we were at a convention right now. I remember talking to you, Brian, in Chicago, and just drinking, and you and I hanging out with Hilary Barta. There was no script. There was no like, hey, what are we going to talk about before we drink a couple?
You talked to Hilary Barta without a script?
No, you weren't part of this, Chris. You did not. You were not part of this conversation. I'm talking to Brian right now.
I don't need a script to talk. Certainly we can talk, but I don't want to like give out false information if I don't have to. Like
No.
you know,
No.
I'll keep it going for sure, and I'll answer the best I can. But it's like, my brain, like 10 years ago, this would all be in here. Like I'd still have this
Right.
in my head, but it's like my brain just doesn't work too good anymore. I've been hit. It's like I've done too many drugs. I've drank too much. I've been punched in the face too many times.
He's had to listen to me for over a decade.
Yeah,
I know it's got to be rough.
Been cut off to my brain on a weekly basis. So it's like it doesn't work like it used to. So I can't quite pull this stuff out of there any longer. It's there. I don't remember. But
so when were you? What show were you in Chicago for, Gordo?
It was the first year. Let me look back here real quick here. I can't remember. It was when the very first EOC anthology, and I had my first piece in it. So that was maybe 2010. No, not 2010. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but right. I came to Chicago, and everybody was awesome. And I remember vividly, Brian, you're gonna love this. Maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. But it was the second day of the convention, and I was looking through some boxes, and you came up behind me and go, "How's it going, man?" I was like, "Wow, Brian, that guy I've been listening to for the last 3 years. Oh yeah, he's my friend now."
I can't say I remember it. Yeah, I do.
Right. No, it was. Yeah, well, Chris, you and I first met in San Francisco at a WonderCon that you were at, and then I came to another. Yeah, and then
we met up with you in Seattle and went to a baseball game.
Right, and that was a wonderful story because I was picking up my stepdaughter from Portland. She was in school, and on the way, my wife said, "Hey, there's a comic convention in Seattle. Do you want to go there after?" I went, "Can I?" She's like, "Yeah." Oh, wow. Just only a couple hours away.
That was a great show, and the White Sox were playing the Mariners in Seattle, so we got to see.
Ichiro. We got to see Ichiro.
We got to see the dome open.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
And once again,
that was one of the funnest trips that we took. It was
tell me more about your because I don't remember I don't think we've actually talked about your side of it. I remember my side of going to the baseball game and everything, but I don't remember like what else was cool. I met Scotty Young. He was amazing and is the greatest human on the planet, but
nah, he's not.
Nah. It was awesome. It was a great show. Jim DeMonakis runs that show. They asked us to come out. They paid for our hotel, I think, which was, we thought that we were running the biggest con in the world because we didn't have to pay for our hotels. I think we had to pay for our airfare out there. We go out there, fantastic show. I met Jamie Bamber from Battlestar Galactica. I remember that.
Okay.
I think we were bullshitting with Brubaker and Rucka and doing all tons of, interviews and that kind of stuff. But it was really just Tom and Sal and I running around Seattle, the three of us.
Ron Richards was at the game too.
Yeah. I mean, Ron and Josh and Connor from
everybody was there.
Were there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
great.
It was probably a high point of like the initial
Halcyon days.
The initial like podcast wave.
Yep.
The OG podcasters were there. It was awesome. We were all having a great time. My funniest remembrance, it wasn't funny at the time. I mean, so you have to think, we've all been together for probably 5 days in a row, like 20 hours a day because we're sharing rooms and it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, interviews, convention. We're all just like fucking exhausted, coming down off the high of doing that. We fly back into Chicago. Sal goes out to one of the suburbs, and I look at Tom, and because we lived kind of close together, I was like, "Hey Tom, you wanna ride on the same train together back into the city?" And he just looked at me. He's like,
No fucking way.
And so he's like, no, I'll grab the next one. I'm like, I understand.
From my perspective, it was always conventions at that time were always such a bizarre.
Oh, they were amazing.
Experience. It was amazing. It was
it was different
over and over again of like us looking at each other and kind of going, can you believe that just happened? Or can you believe what's going on? Can you believe what we're doing? Like we didn't, we had no concept of sort of like promotion or like working with comic book companies or getting to know, and then all of a sudden it just sort of started happening. And we'd find ourselves sitting in a room with a bunch of people that made comic books that we loved. And it was just this weird experience. And then on top of that, then you had people that listened to us and liked our show and were like excited to meet us because they had been listening to our show. And it's like, well, that's odd. That's really strange. That was, and then guys like you making their own T-shirts, and stealing our copyrighted,
It may have been the Seattle show that I'm standing in line at a Starbucks, and I'm
Pirates hat on because we're all wearing our.
It's the only.
I figured
I love that it's the old.
It took this long for me to figure out the motif. Sorry.
Yeah, I love that it's the Willie Stargell style.
It's this is a 1978 promotional from 7-Up.
Yeah,
that's Willie Stargell's hat.
That is Willie Stargell's actual hat. That's amazing.
Unbelievable shape for 1978.
Did you ever have the experience that where you're like standing in line at like a Starbucks at a comic convention and you're talking to someone and this happened to me and someone turns around and it's like, are you Chris Niesman from around?
Right, your voice. That's amazing.
I've had a couple of experiences like that. I had the one of the weirder ones was, after we had stopped doing the show for a while, and this was just like a couple years ago, and I had joined a jiu-jitsu gym. I had started doing jiu-jitsu, and a guy at the gym, this guy Craig, we start talking. We're rolling. He was a higher belt than me, and I we would roll and work out, whatever, and then we would talk, and we started talking about comic books. And at some point, I mentioned, "Oh yeah, I used to do a comic book podcast." And he's like, "Oh really? What one?" And then I told him, and he's like you could see.
No way.
It's like your Sal.
Yeah, it was like weird.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was very odd, and he would even admit it. Like he got a little freaked out. It's like and it's like, come on, man, that is the weirdest, uncomfortable thing of like,
don't fan out.
Yeah, I don't want to give you an autograph. I don't want to fucking be like, don't act like I'm not just a moron with a microphone, because that's all I am, is just a moron with a microphone.
Right.
One could do this.
All of us are. Yeah.
But those experiences, that one was kind of weird because I'm like, 45 years old, and this guy is like, the same age as me, and we just got done, wrestling around together, and then it's just like all of a sudden he like starts getting freaked out. I mean, we've since then, that has gone far away, and we're very friendly, but it was just like, that was a weird experience of like seeing his eyes change when he realized that I was around comics. Is just like, okay, that's fucking. And it was like the other experiences that I've had is like the first time I took my family to a convention, and like my kids and my wife would see people come up to me and my wife like being, wow, you're kind of famous,
right? Huh? Sure, why not? Yeah,
with a really small F, but there was a time where some people liked what we did, and it was just like, that was always a strange thing. I'm an extrovert,
when it's appropriate.
I love being in front of an audience. Like I love being in front of a crowd. Like I could sit and do panels, and I can talk in front of an audience all day long, and I have zero nerves about it. I love that interaction of being.
You're a lead singer, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether it's stand-up comedy, whether it's being in a band, that kind of thing. It's like but I love talking with an audience there. I love the interaction of an audience. That is something that I would do for free. You know what I mean? Like I would do that all the time.
Yeah.
That was always the most fun. Whenever we did panels at conventions, that was
When there
the
was a script.
fun.
Yeah.
That was the most fun for me. I loved doing
Okay, I got you.
panels with an audience because that was just like
They're
live interaction. I always tried to get us to do. I wanted us to do, and we did it when we did Windy City Con.
Mm-hmm.
But I love doing live shows. It's like I enjoyed having an audience for that feedback of a live podcast, and it's like I would do those now in a heartbeat if we had an audience.
That was one of the great things, kind of going back to the early days, is when we did it at Dark Tower. We weren't in a studio. It was kind of like this living, breathing environment that we were. I mean, we were literally plopped in the middle of the store. And it would happen a lot that like random people would walk into the store and they'd be like, what the hell's going on? And, it was kind of it was the bet. And they would sit there and they would listen. And it was, that was.
At one point, we just started putting chairs down because people would come in and just sit down and listen to doing the show. And
but isn't that how like you met some of the other didn't Mike Norton kind of like come in and watch, and then that's how
it was Norton and Seeley and
Hillary. They would just come in and what they were like local guys.
It's
Brown, Jeffrey Brown.
Oh God, Burnham. I mean, Gene Hall would come in from the suburbs, and it kind of turned. What was
a party?
There had been a 90s group of comic book creators and it even went back into the 80s. Whenever you talk about like First Comics and that kind of stuff, where you get into the Steve Rude and those guys in Madison, Wisconsin, and then there was then that comes to Chicago with First Comics, and there was that like Dan Klaus and Barta and Azzarello, and because Azzarello was an editor way before he was a writer, and so you had those groups of creators that were in that Chicago community, and then that kind of phased out, and then there was another community that kind of came up out of that in the early 2000s, and then you had kind of us at Dark Tower kind of became that touchstone where a lot of those creators said, hey, we're gonna go there and check out this podcast, and then we'll go out and have drinks and
that's why my bookshelf looks the way it does, is because of all of that stuff.
I'm trying to remember, like, who was the first like creator that started coming to the show?
It was probably Mike.
Was it
Mike and Tim?
Like randomly?
Oh, like how did that even happen?
Hillary lived around the corner from the comic shop, and Mike,
there you go.
Mike and Tim shopped there. I mean, that was their shop.
Like, I don't even remember how we met those guys. That's the weird thing. Like, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I think they just kind of like showed up and at that. I mean, but Mike and Tim, that was the cool thing, is that at that point, a lot of the people that we think of as being like these, great creators in the industry, and they are great creators in the industry. I mean, they were in their early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and they were just kind of starting out. I mean, Mike and Tim weren't that far from doing stuff for Devil's Due at that point.
I think they had just. I mean, they were still, I think, kind of doing some stuff for Devil's Due.
I mean, they were probably doing G.I. Joe at Devil's Due whenever we met them. And just kind of grew from there. And then Jeffrey Brown was doing kind of his first top shelf work. And he lived, it's when Jeffrey Brown and Hillary Barta live within like 3 blocks of each other. I mean, that was that scene. I mean, that was that scene. These amazing indie comic creators and guys like Hillary, who had been working like mainstream comics since the early 80s and was now doing like indie, and he's working with like Rick Remender on, different projects. And it was cool. It was a neat time. I miss a lot of that. And But
all right, enough of this nostalgia horse shit.
it's a lot of nostalgia. Yeah, we've given ourselves enough blowjobs tonight.
Well, let me give a quick blowjob to Sal. Very quick. No one
All right,
knows.
it won't take long.
Because we have been, we've known each other for so long, and back to the Seattle Comic-Con was you and I were walking back from the game, and there was this hill that you just were having a hard time walking up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Seattle's very hilly.
No, just hold on. I'm a mailman. I'm in good shape, and it was just, but I never, it took me 10 years to call you out. I'm not calling you out. Anyway, we were walking up the hill back to our hotels, and you said, "Fuck this, I'm calling a taxi." And you call a taxi in the middle of walking up a hill. And now you are the most physical, most amazing physical specimen that I know, with all of what you're doing with jujitsu and everything like that. So what I'm saying is, it's like this memory of that first memory of you was just like
a big fat Sal,
big fat nerd who can't walk up a hill.
Yeah,
now he's thrown.
That was not the first time in Seattle I gave up on a hill. No, I gave up on many. I died on many hills in Seattle.
So yeah, we stayed at this hotel literally at the top of the hill, and we went down to Pike's Place.
Yeah.
And we're walking down. And I'm just like, yeah, this is great. I remember looking at you. And it's like, dude, we're gonna get to the bottom of this hill, and we're gonna have to call a cab because this is fucking brutal. I mean, it's like a 40-degree fucking pitch.
In my defense,
no defense needed.
Certainly, I was way out of shape. I had been smoking, for 20 years at that point.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I was fat, but also I was a genius and I decided to wear boots to the convention. Like there was the only pair of shoes that I had were a fair.
This was the White Sox game. This was after
my favorite memory was coming from Pike's Place, and we were going back up this gargantuan, and it was the incline on this thing. It was easy 35-40 degrees. I mean, it's a crazy incline. And I remember us coming up, and this cute little college age girl with a clipboard came up to us, and we're hoofing it up this hill. And she comes up, she's like, "Can I ask you a few questions about the environment?" And she was from Greenpeace. And we're like, "Absolutely. Go for it." And she starts asking us questions, and we catch our breath. And she's like, "So would you like to sign up or donate?" And Sal just looks at her. It's like, "Kiddo, we're just taking a break before we gotta keep walking up this hill." So yeah, it was.
But what I'm saying is that, Brian, you are fucking awesome now. I watch all of your Instagram posts, all of the things that you've been going through. That's just like you took that and said, "I'm going to change myself," instead of saying, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna." Oh, can we cuss on this?
Okay, it's fine.
Oh, okay. Whew. I don't know YouTube's rules. Anyway,
just don't play music.
Right. So anyway, to me, that, like, every time I see you do anything on Instagram is when you're in your dojo is amazing. I love it. I love it that you took a hold of yourself and said, "I'm not going to let this be the thing."
Well, I was going to die young. I mean,
right.
So it was a matter of, I was very out of shape, and I quit smoking, which was the first, hurdle. That was the number one thing. And then after that, it was just sort of like slowly building up to, getting in better shape, trying to get in better shape, and then, jujitsu was really the thing that changed everything, because it was like, oh, this is something I really enjoy to do. I really love it, but it also, like,
how'd you find it?
I was, I had went to a gym initially to box. I wanted to work out. I don't like running, and I don't really enjoy lifting weights that much, although I probably enjoy lifting weights more now than I did at the time. But I knew I didn't, like, that was a chore, So I'm like, I need to find something I can do that I enjoy, so I'll keep doing it. I knew that about myself. Like, I'm a lazy person. Like, mentally, I was very lazy. I knew that about myself. Like, so I
You're
had
not
to
mentally
trick
ill.
myself into, okay, find something that's sort of fun, and maybe I'll keep doing it. So I loved boxing growing up as a kid. My dad was a boxer. I really enjoyed boxing, and I boxed a little when I was younger. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll try that. I'll get into boxing, and that'll keep me interested. And so I joined a gym that was a MMA gym, but they did boxing classes. And so I started doing that, and I did enjoy it. But then I got into kickboxing. And at the time, and then I really started to get into MMA more and watching it and enjoying it. And
community based too, right? It's like there's a community based with what you're doing.
Well, with jiu-jitsu, there certainly is. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
back to comic books, get back to sports. It's everything. It's all about like, yeah, I love that.
Well, that's the biggest part for jiu-jitsu is like the people that I do it with are my brothers. You know what I mean? Like you go through really difficult things together, and you have to, you bond, and it's just like, it's something you can't not be close to. I mean, when you're jiu-jitsu is like this funny thing where I kind of say this joke all the time to like new people that start, because I work with a lot of the new people now in our gym. When they come in, my instructor will put them with me because he knows I'm gonna not hurt them. I'm gonna show them the right way to do things.
Yeah.
And, make it inviting. But I kind of always make the joke of like, jiu-jitsu is the only place where you teach your friends how to choke you better. and it's the truth. Like, like, I'm constantly working with people, teaching them how to choke me, or how to submit me, or how to do better against me, how to beat me in a grappling match. And it's just, so it's like, it's a weird thing, but it's a big part of it too. But yeah, so I did kickboxing that, and then the gym I was at moved. So I kind of stopped for a little while, and then they opened a UFC gym by my house. So I joined that, and I was just doing boxing and kickboxing again. And there was a guy there that was teaching jiu-jitsu, and he also taught kickboxing. And I used to go to his kickboxing classes. I really liked him. Anthony was his name. And he kept bugging me to do jiu-jitsu. He's like, come on, you should do jiu-jitsu. You should do it. You'd like it. And I'm like, I'm not interested. And then finally I started doing it. And
you took that first step. That's great.
Yeah. But it was, it was an intimidating thing. Like, it was the unknown, and sort of, and like, it's the funny thing, like, he was at the time he was a brown belt, and probably 145 pounds soaking wet. And I was probably 265 at the time. And I thought I was a pretty good athlete. Yeah, I was up to almost 290 at my heaviest.
Whoa.
So after I had actually lost a little weight and gotten in a little better shape. And so I was like 265, and he could just put me into a pretzel. Like, completely,
he figured it out. Yeah.
And I could do nothing. I could do nothing to stop it. And I'm like, okay, this is something I need to learn. Like, this is, and so that's how I got into it. And yeah, it's like 4 years ago now, something like that, going on 5 years. And I just, it taught me, like, more than anything, like, it's a skill-based thing, and it's very difficult, both mentally and physically. It's a huge challenge every single day, but it taught me how to be mentally strong. Like, I was never that way. Growing up, I was always kind of good at stuff, like, whatever it was. Like, I was a pretty good athlete, even though I wasn't in great shape. But I was just naturally a pretty good athlete. I was a pretty good artist. I was a pretty good writer. I was a pretty good student. Like, it was all
pretty good. Yeah,
pretty good. Right. I wasn't great at any of it, but I was pretty good at everything. But that, like, taught me how to not work at stuff. Like, I didn't know how to work at anything because things came pretty easy to me. So by the time I was like in my 30s, I was super mentally very lazy. And I didn't want to be that way anymore. Like, I just didn't, it wasn't like even like being out of shape, that was part of it, but it was more just like I've lived a very soft life, and I've never really challenged myself to see, like, there was a fear I also had of like, I don't want to ever challenge myself to the point of breaking because I'm afraid I'll break. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So I would never push myself, and then like jujitsu was this thing of like, well, there's no workaround. Like there's no faking it. You can't cheat. There's no way it's just hard work. There's nothing. I mean, you can be athletically gifted, but that gets you like 5% better than maybe someone that's not. Like if there's someone that's like there's guys that'll come in the gym now that are, high school wrestlers, very athletic, half my age, but they have zero technique. And it's ridiculously easy for me to throw them around a gym. Now, not every guy. I mean, some big, strong dudes, like it takes, but it's a technique thing. And it's just like, it's really a lot of work. Jiu-jitsu is very, very difficult. It's mentally hard because it breaks your pride and your ego. Like it crushes your ego. You can't ego. You can't.
Yeah.
The guys, like a lot of guys have like just a built-in competitive nature. Like you want to win. You want to dominate. You want to be. And it's like, well, you don't learn if that's your mentality. Like you have to lose. And you have to put yourself in bad situations in order to learn. And then you just have to work your fucking ass off. And so it just taught me how to be like mentally a lot stronger. And I just started turning into sort of the person I wanted to be.
That's awesome.
Like, I don't, like I'm not afraid of challenges. I'm not afraid of physically like pushing myself as hard as I can possibly push myself. And that's the thing, like most people don't do that in their life. Like most people, like I push myself physically at 49 years old to the brink of breaking like 3 days a week. But it just makes me stronger. You know what I mean? Like it just makes me physically and mentally stronger. And I don't know. It's just something I love doing it. I love when it works. I love the fact that it's like, I the other day, there's a kid at my gym, he just turned 25. And I was like, hey, happy birthday, man. You're like half my age now. And he's like, and he looks at me and he's like, what? And we've known each other for a few years, and and he's like, how old are you? And I'm like, well, I'm 49, I'll be 50 next year. And he's like, my dad is 48. He doesn't look anything like you. Yeah. And he said like the nicest compliment. He's like, I want to be like you when I'm your age. Like, that's what I want to be. And it's like, I can't ask for much more. You know what I mean? Like
how are you handling it through COVID? How is it working?
Well, I was very lucky. I was very fortunate because about 6 months before COVID, a guy came to the gym who was a black belt, or was a brown belt, and he hadn't trained in about 5 years. He had moved to California and trained for a while, but then he stopped training. He used to live here. He used to train with my black belt's black belt. And so he knew Anthony, my black belt. And so he started working on our gym, and he's like, listen, I'm a brown belt, but I haven't trained in years. I'm really rusty. I don't want to like embarrass myself because, somebody walks in the gym and they have a brown belt on or a black belt. It's like a target.
Yeah, sure.
Like, even me now, like I have a purple belt now, and it's like, it's a target. Like it's like, oh,
I'm going to take this guy down.
Yeah. So he's like, I don't want to embarrass myself. I haven't rolled in a long time. Can you put me, with somebody? So he put him with me. And even though like he's a little younger than I am, we just hit it off. We're very similar, kind of people, and we just really got along. And so when COVID hit, me and him were still training, just the two of us. And he had actually gotten his black belt like right before COVID hit. And so I was really fortunate that I was like 3 days a week. I was training with him just one-on-one for like an hour a day. And so it really helped my game. And it just really, I was really fortunate. And then he actually got hurt. And, but there was another guy, this black belt, Jeff, who hadn't been training, and it was the same sort of thing. He was looking for somebody to train with. And so he gave, we started training again. So like through the whole, for the last 4 months, I've been rolling with just like black belts over and over again. So it's really, really difficult. They kick the shit out of me, but it's really improved my game. And then my gym just started with limited classes again. So we have like limited classes, and you just work with the same partner every class. And so far it's been fine, but a lot of people didn't train at all. It was really, like I said, I was really lucky that I was able to train with him, with my friend Alex, one-on-one, really helped me. But a lot of people didn't train at all because it's like, what do you, if you're not doing the classes, my school shut down, all the schools shut down for, 2-3 months. So it was difficult, but so
right, you got to stay strong while you're doing it too. You can't just, if you take a week off, you notice.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially like your cardio disappears. Like grappling is extremely cardio intensive. Like it's harder than anything I've ever done. And it's like, it's a different kind of cardio than like running. Not that I'm a good runner, but it's just like
I have zero cardio.
I scored 4 touchdowns in high school. No, I was captain of my high school wrestling team, and we would say it's the hardest 6 minutes of your life.
Right, it's sprinting cardio. Right, totally
more intense because it's like way more explosive.
Yeah, it's another person is grappling to put your ass on the mat and pin you, and it's the hardest 6 minutes of your life.
Welcome to Around Comics Health and Fitness, everybody.
Around grappling.
Around grappling.
Well, since we're talking about this, I wanted Jason Kim is on the
perfect.
Of course it does.
And give me a sense of inner peace and balance, and yes, absolutely it does. I don't know if that was a sort of a funny question, but no, it absolutely does give me a sense of inner peace, just because in a couple of different ways. Like one, just like from a self-defense perspective, when you start training like MMA and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, like you're training with fighters, like you quickly realize how little you know about fighting. And like if you go into a gym and you don't know anything, but like you're like, even if you were like, I was a street fighter, that's sort of the funny kind of thing of like guys who, even if you've been in a lot of fights or whatever. Like to go against someone that's like training on a regular basis it's a joke. Like and you don't understand that until you see it, and then you realize how little you know about defending yourself. Like how, it's like I was not a fighter. I grew up, I was a big guy growing up, so I didn't really get into a lot of fights because I think people just, people didn't really fuck with me that much. I mean, I had a few fights, but I was not a fighter. I wasn't the type of person to fight much. But it's like you don't have an understanding of like how little you know about a fight until you actually, do it with people that are trained, and that kind of thing. So that's, I mean, just having that sort of like self-confidence, like I can, I know I can handle myself now. Like I've been, it's like I train 3-4 days a week, a couple hours a day, as hard as, you can possibly go. And most people don't do that at all. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just a physical, just as Like I'm going to wear somebody out just pushing and shoving. You know what I mean? Like you're going to get tired in a minute, in 2 minutes, just 2 minutes of grappling someone. If you don't do it regularly, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be absolutely exhausted. And I'll do it for an hour straight, and I'm not that I'm going to be not tired, but it's a different kind of thing when you're doing it all the time. So there's definitely that kind of security. You just feel more secure about yourself. But the other part is like your ego getting killed all the time. You know, I don't know if you guys deal with your ego, if it gets in the way of things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, right? Like your ego gets like all the time. No, that's what.
So, no. I totally get it. I've got a Cal Ripken streak of never being in a fight in my life, and so I have no experience with that sort of concept. So my question is, like, you know, you're ready to defend yourself, but are you worried about having to defend yourself? I know you live in a bigger city than me, but I have no worries in my stupid little town. No one's gonna fuck with me. But you, like, how many people are gonna come up to you and, you know, how?
I don't know. It's not like I'm walking around thinking like people are.
I don't think you've ever done jujitsu as a self-defense.
Right.
You've never done it with the intention of like, I need to defend myself.
Right.
No, I mean, well, I can't say that that's necessarily true. I mean, I certainly have done it in the sense of like, I mean, there have been times in my life where I
trouble was brewing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there have been times,
okay. So
like I have definitely had times where, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just like being a bigger guy, like it's that thing of like, oh, I'm gonna fuck with that person. I mean, there's definitely been times. Like I said, I'm not a confrontational kind of person in the sense of like, if I bump into somebody, I'm the first person to say, "Oh, excuse me."
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You know what I mean, like, there have definitely been times in my life where it's like people go out of their way to sort of start something with me.
Right.
And it's sort of like going, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna, I'm
right.
years old. But no, it's not like I walk around like thinking, oh, I'm gonna get attacked. I mean, although in this day and age, it seems more likely than in the last, 10 years of my life. It seems, who knows what kind of lunatics, there seems to be a lot of anger and tense people in the world right now. So it doesn't hurt to have that. But no,
conflict resolution is out the window right now.
But it's a weird thing of like, Joe Rogan is a guy who I know a lot of people are controversial on him, but I'm a big fan of his podcast. I've listened to it for years, and he's a big jiu-jitsu guy.
So am I. So am I.
And he talks about like, if you spend an hour like sweating your ass off and getting the shit kicked out of you and trying to pin someone or trying to armbar someone or them trying to choke you, that kind of thing, defending yourself from being attacked. Because that's the thing about jiu-jitsu, like you can go 100% and the chances are you're not going to get hurt. And if you do that for an hour and then you get in your car and like somebody cuts you off in traffic, it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, so I definitely like, there is a mood change when I go to the gym, and then when I'm done and I'm driving home, it's like nothing is a problem any longer. Like I don't have it, it's like I'm not angry at anything. I don't care, hey, everything's good. But also the going back to the pride thing, going back to the getting your ego smashed on a regular basis is a really healthy thing. It's a super healthy thing because you start to, at least I did, like I started to see how my ego was making me behave in everyday life with everyone. Like, whether it was work, whether it was my kids, my wife, how much I made decisions and bad decisions usually based on my ego and not really like, does this affect me or is this the best way to behave or the best way to talk to someone or a lot of it was just sort of like ego and pride. And it's like, well, once you kind of strip that away and you get rid of it, you can function in a different way with people.
Totally.
Yeah, about that. I had
Hooray,
way more than I thought.
Comics. Hooray, comics. Comics around. Oh, wait a minute.
Around jiu-jitsu. Sorry, dude. If you ask me about jiu-jitsu, I will talk about. I could do a jiu-jitsu
There we go.
every day.
Okay, so let's stop that and go. Once again, I am a podcaster, so I want to move things. Is there any sort of jiu-jitsu comic book that we should look at?
Oh,
Anything
yeah.
Anything?
Sulk number 2. Hold on, I'll be right back.
I don't think I read that. There was Kevin Mellon had done a comic. I can't think of there was a woman that he had done a comic with. Gosh, I can't think of her name now. And I can't think of the name of the comic.
But did you read it?
It was sort of a jiu-jitsu comic. I don't think jiu-jitsu really translates into comics that well.
Right. It would be a lot of like if you see, you can find like old footage, like if you go to Google images and say jiu-jitsu or judo, it'll be like people throwing and that sort of thing. Right. It won't translate as well. Yeah, I get that.
No, yeah, it's kind of a, I mean, I don't think so. I'm trying to think of anything that I remember.
Yeah.
What is that?
Sulk number 2. Sulk. Deadly awesome.
Okay. There you go.
You remember this?
That's Jeffrey Brown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if I ever read that.
Dude, it's one of the greatest comics ever created.
Did Chris Crank did Chris Crank do the lettering for it?
No.
What's that?
It is Jeffrey's comic adaptation of one of the greatest MMA fights ever.
Okay, that's cool. That's funny.
Who?
Who is it? It's
Who edits this podcast, by the way? Let's find out what we cut out.
We don't edit anything.
I know it's live
in 10 years.
You guys make me laugh.
The thing, it's the entire comic is one gigantic fight. Talk amongst yourself.
I'm gonna fall asleep, Chris. You fallen asleep many times. I think I'm getting close.
That was a different show. Yeah, but the entire comic is a cage fight. So Sulk number 2 from Jeffrey Brown. It's Top Shelf Comics. It's great. Any of the Sulk comics are great. So speaking of Chicago and Jeffrey Brown. So I've got another comic that I read that I've been wanting to talk. All right, we've got about 20 minutes left here.
What do you mean 20 minutes? Oh, you got 2 hours. Okay, 2 hours.
Yeah, we would keep it to two-ish hours. Have you guys read All American Comics?
No.
All America?
All America Comics?
It's got a good green screen. We can
it's another Joe Casey comic. And if there is a comic book creator over the last, we're going on like 20 years of like Joe Casey continually putting out different new and awesome comics. And you look at the history of this guy's comics. Joe Casey puts out a lot of comics. Mm-hmm. He's kind of an idea factory. So All America Comics number 1. I have not read the second issue, but it's about a
one-shot. I believe it's a one-shot. There isn't a second issue.
Is there not? It left on a cliffhanger.
I'm just telling you, it says All America Comics number 1 one-shot.
What?
Oh, that's sorry.
Next.
So sad.
Yeah, it's good. I want you to check it out, read it. We can talk about it, but it's definitely the kind of comic that I remember whenever I read Scott Pilgrim the first time. My takeaway was I really enjoyed that, and that was a comic that was not written for me. And that was my takeaway with this comic. It's like,
Pilgrim, you feel was not written for you?
this was not written for a 47-year-old white guy.
Oh no, I mean Scott Pilgrim.
Well, Scott Pilgrim wasn't either.
Scott Pilgrim was not written for at the time, a 38-year-old white man.
who maybe played video games once in a while.
Yeah, different.
Right. Yeah.
It was written for people that were 10 years younger than me.
That's fine. Totally fine.
Come on, Sal, if you read Scott Pilgrim, it's written for people that are 10 years younger than us.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I can see that certainly. I really enjoyed Scott Pilgrim, so I don't know.
I enjoyed it.
I see what
but
you
I understood. It wasn't written for or to me.
Yeah, I guess I just I don't know why. I guess I feel like you're a little younger, but I always felt like
I'm like 2 years younger than you.
I know.
Guys, are you just get married? Come on.
Maybe Tom. Maybe Tom is the.
I feel like Tom is way younger than us, and he's really not.
He's really not.
Yeah,
like
Ron Richards.
He doesn't have kids.
I kept saying that about Ron.
Married.
He's like, I'm not that much younger than you.
I don't know. Did everybody read The Three Jokers?
No, I have not.
From DC. It's Jeff Johns' new. It's a Black Label book, but it's
Jeff Johns writing a Black Label book that says pass to me.
It was. Okay. Well, here's the thing. It's a pretty good story. It's pretty good so far. The first issue is pretty good. It's an interesting concept, but and it's well done. Like, he's a good writer. There's no question Jeff Johns is a good writer. I'm not the biggest, like, the problem is, like, he always seems to want to fix what he perceives as a problem with continuity in comics. Like, So like, this story is basically him going, all right, there's basically been three eras of Jokers. There was sort of the early, Clown Prince of Crime Joker. Then there was the Alan Moore Joker.
Yeah.
And then there's like the modern Joker. Kind of like almost like the Christopher Nolan darker.
Every other superhero ever. Yeah.
And so now he has all three. They all exist
in one guy.
No, there's three different Jokers. There's literally three different Jokers.
So it's like Caesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, and Heath Ledger all in the same universe.
Basically, yeah. They're all kind of working together. And so it's kind of an interesting story. I'm interested in where it goes, but I'm like, why does he feel the need to sort of fix that history? Like, you don't have to make it all make sense. Like, I don't need, you know what I mean? Like, he has this need where he feels like he has to make sense of 75 years of comic books history, and it's like, you
can't do it.
Well, he's gonna try. He's gonna do it. Well, but to give him credit, it's like, look what he did with, like Flash and Green Lantern, and like he sort of made sense of a lot of the.
I'm going to bring it back to this for half a second.
The book that we don't know anything about,
that no one's read.
It's a Gen Zer. It's a comic about a Gen Zer, and she's a nonconformist. She's a non-joiner. And it is a comic that is written to and for Gen Zers. If you can imagine a Gen Zer being an incredibly powerful superhero that basically tells the Avengers she doesn't have fucking time for them because they're old. And she has.
Well, I'm gonna love this comic.
You're gonna fucking hate it. You're gonna want to smack this girl in the face, but that's the point. I'm just like, yes, this is not written for me. This is a Gen Z hero.
What I have with like Joe Casey writing that is Joe Casey is older than us, I think.
Absolutely, and that's the you know,
and he's just sort of pandering. Yeah. He's just sort of pandering at that point. That was a problem.
Perhaps, but where I bring this back to Jeff Johns is that Jeff Johns was kind of doing that with JSA a little bit. It was a 15 years ago where it was the new generation of superheroes. I mean, that was Stargirl. That was all of the, you know, second generation legacy characters that came up in JSA. Now they didn't.
Well, but he had such reverence for those characters. That's
the difference is that they had reverence for those the predecessors, where this is now the next generation that is like, I don't have reverence for you because I've seen everything that you've done and it hasn't worked, and now it's time to go off in a different direction. But I mean, Jeff Johns had that next generation coming into existence, and this is kind of the next step beyond that. But I mean, you look at everything that he did with JSA and
why do Gen Zers hate their parents so much?
Is this a joke?
Well, but like, I don't know. I mean, they just
why does Gen X hate every generation around it?
Huh?
Why does Gen X hate every generation around it? We hate baby boomers and Gen Z.
I don't know. I don't hate my parents though. Like I didn't hate them. Did anybody read Big Girls?
What is it?
Big Girls?
No.
Don't cry, big. Yeah. Oh, that's a different thing. Sorry.
Jason Howard.
Oh, I love Jason Howard.
It's a book. It's basically like, and I'm going to shit on it a little bit, but it's basically.
Sorry, Jason.
Yeah. All men are evil. All men are monsters. Literally, men are monsters, and they're like giant women designed to kill men. And it's like, okay, it could be an interesting book, but it's so like obviously geared for a very specific audience that he's trying to sell it to.
Oh, it's not written for you?
Well, that's fine. It's not that it's not written for me, but it's like,
yeah, but is it good?
No.
Yeah.
Not good.
No, I've not read Big Girls. But I do love Jason's work.
I like him. I like but
I like Jason too. Yeah.
Really? Like this is I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's he's just really flying the feminist flag high on this one.
Good for him.
I suppose.
There are worse things to do.
There are certainly worse things to do.
Yeah, I'm waiting for I got an alert from Amazon that in November, and this must be for Christmas shopping, that the deluxe editions for Paper Girls and for the third definitive edition of East of West are coming out in November. So I finally get to finish. Huh?
That's a book I can't get past a few issues.
Really? Okay. So that's your Sandman?
Sure.
From my experience of yes, it just doesn't, the hook doesn't sink.
Yeah, it just like, it's really, I like the art a lot, but it's
the art's great.
It's such a like I just don't find myself really interested in any of the characters.
You're not as much of a dystopian fan as I am.
I like it if it's good.
Yeah. I
don't like it if it's just dystopian. I don't like dystopian just for dystopian's sake.
What are your favorite dystopian stories from like movies? What are your favorite dystopian movies? Like, Planet of the Apes, Vanishing Point, Logan's Run, Children of Men, Mad Max.
I really liked that. What was the one with the train? That was pretty recent.
Oh, Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer.
No,
Yeah.
you told me you didn't like the TV show.
I didn't care for the TV show as much. I liked the movie.
TV show is awesome. I love the
TV show.
I love the TV show.
I found myself kind of bored with the TV show.
Okay.
I thought the movie was excellent. I didn't know that it needed more than that. It was like, I felt like it was just sort of unnecessary.
Like Gattaca. Did you want,
Gattaca's awesome, sure. I love Gattaca. I don't know. I'd have to think about it some more. I don't know, I don't have the top of my head.
Yeah. I'm a huge, and this is where Gordie and I can just probably riff for a long time, is I love 70s dystopian movies. We should do an absolute podcast on like Rollerball.
Yeah, I asked you to do this earlier today, but you said no.
I said I may have something else brewing. Just hold tight.
No. No. I'm
but yeah,
no. Rollerball. There's an amazing TV show.
Wally.
Planet
You're
Earth.
You're not invited to the podcast, Sal.
Yeah.
No, it's seriously. Everyone's seen
Clockwork Orange. How about a Clockwork Orange? That's
what? Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
I mean, that's Kubrick, and it's dystopian, so it's amazing.
So it's good.
It's not good. It's amazing.
Right. And as a junior high person, I learned Russian, so all of the Russian, all of the weird words they used in Clockwork Orange were based on Russian. So I was like catching all of it as a 13-year-old, 15-year-old. Yeah,
I mean, like Rollerball is it's kind of cute, but it's a terrible fucking movie.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's a
awesome movie. It's an awesome
movie.
No. I understand the concept.
It's not a good movie. It's a terrible.
It's awesome. No, we're talking about the 70s one, not the terrible early 2000s remake.
It's terrible.
It's a great.
We always turn it on somebody else. What makes it terrible?
Nothing.
It's a bad story, bad acting, ridiculous concept.
Bad story. It's about corporate. It's about corporates taking over sports and ruining everything and celebrity. It's a great story.
You go, man.
No, it's on the nose. It's just like punches you in the face with it. It's not like it's
not in 1974.
Listen, there's way better 1970s movies talking about corporate takeover, like Network. If you want to compare,
but
no. Network is great. You're totally right. Network is great.
Something like Network, that's a great movie.
Oranges. So are we going to get into a Tom Cater Sal fight like last episode? Yeah. If I'm going to be Tom Caters in this episode, I'm going to fight Sal.
Listen, Rollerball is fun. It's fun to watch that. Or like,
it's okay. I'm going to kind of split the difference here. It is a really good, thought-provoking, and entertaining movie. It is a very good.
I don't find any of those things true.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you're comparing it to fucking Network.
Yeah,
that's the bar we're gonna set.
Wait a minute, whoa! You asked me if it was a good movie or not.
But I mean, you're fucking comparing it to one of the greatest movies of all time.
Okay, well, why shouldn't I compare it to that? If it's a good movie.
This is why I love you.
It's a great movie.
Whether it's like good movie, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Well, if you're going to call it great, why would I?
Yes, it was hyperbolic. I'm sorry.
Oh, so it's not.
It wasn't Deer Hunter.
No, it's not Deer Hunter.
No, I'm just saying. It's just like, yeah, I get it.
It's a fun movie. I'm not saying it's not fun to watch.
Godfather 1. No, I'm sorry.
But it's not like some brilliant, social statement on society. I mean, there was way better movie.
Well, yeah, actually, it was.
Is a way better movie. In the
Yeah, actually, it was.
It wasn't.
But yeah, it was.
Okay.
Soylent Green. Okay, what are you feeling?
Comics.
First of all, anyone
Gordie, this
James
is
Bond
everything you ever asked for, right here.
This is how I learned. Other than EC Comics, this is how I learned how to read. High Camp Superheroes was you could buy it through Captain Company, through Famous Monsters, and it had all the Archie heroes, the Web, the Shield, all these guys. This is what you got to listen. You got to read.
And where did all of those heroes end up?
Don't care. Oh, Watchmen. Sort of, right?
Wait, no, those were Charlton.
No, those are. Oh, right. You're right. Yeah, these are Archie heroes. Right. You're right. You know what? I think Dynamite. Did Dynamite do them?
They would have.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying, nostalgia.
We've pulled off a Band-Aid here. We're going to argue about 70s dystopian movies. This is going to be our next.
No. You guys are going to argue about it.
Hey, you guys talked about jujitsu for like a half hour. I get to talk about 70s dystopian movies. God damn it.
Yeah, this will move on to you.
Chris. Interesting.
This is a really good segue to end this episode and say, hey, Chris, you and I need to do a Gordcast where we talk about this dystopian movies.
That's great.
And,
so
yeah.
Gordo, where can we find the Gordcast?
Yeah. Well, Gordcast is the umbrella. I did this thing. Do you guys know about the movies by minute thing that's happening? Really?
No.
Tell us.
You've never heard about movies by minute. Oh my gosh. So you guys are weirdos. If you love a movie, there are people that dissect it minute by minute. They talk about it for like Star Wars or whatever your favorite movie is. There's a minute by minute.
The Fanboy guys did like Goodfellas minute by minute.
Yeah, no, Josh has been on every Star Wars minute ever. I know for sure. Yeah. Anyway, I love listening to them, but I can't dissect something minute by minute, even though I love something. So I did Zardoz dozen minutes.
Is that the Sean Connery, that weird Sean Connery movie?
Oh, come on. You don't even know about it?
Here's your expert on 70s dystopia. He doesn't even know.
Sean Connery.
I don't even know about. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Sal. Totally. Thanks, Brian.
Fuck off, Sal.
Thanks. You don't even know about Zardoz. Zardoz is an amazing 1974 John Boorman film. John Boorman made Deliverance, and then he made.
Amazing is a really strong word to use. Sal's definitions. Strong.
Okay.
Well, amazing doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Amazing.
Sorry, go ahead, Gordo.
Right. Anyways, he made Deliverance, then he made Zardoz, then he made Excalibur. So there's this weird in-between thing. Sean Connery, and people say all the time, Sean Connery wore a red diaper, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, I broke it down 12 minutes at a time, and it's on my podcast, and actually fell in love with the movie for the millionth time, like we do with everything that we love. That's the thing about everything that we talk about, whether you guys talk about comic books or whatever. It's like, oh, I love this, so I want to talk about it. So that's that. But before that, it was the regular Gordcast, where just a bunch of white guys talking about music. And
I just want to say,
Chris was a I asked Sal, and I totally would get on it. I would totally have Brian come on and defend the Misfits. That would be great. That'd be a great episode.
Oh, I want that episode in my life.
I'd be happy to. Happy to. I can talk a while about the Misfits for sure. I have a long history of the Misfits.
Yeah. Anyway, I just love this whole concept. Once again, at the beginning of this episode, I was saying I was happy to be part of this, and you guys are the reason that I'm even, included. So, just keep podcasting, everybody.
Oh man, you've been awesome. You've been a friend of the show from, I mean, literally about the beginning. You were probably one of our first listeners, and have been, an awesome. I've called you up on many a drunken evening, and told me. You're always one of my favorite people to talk to. So this is long overdue, and it's been awesome to have you on, man.
You guys rock.
Yeah, we love you. All right, so Sal, if people want to reach out and contact the show, they can do so by...
They can email us at info@aroundcomics.com.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they would like, they can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/aroundcomics. You can get us on Instagram. You can get us on Twitter. Around.
You guys have a mailing address.
We do have a mailing address, P.O. Box 6114.
The postal guy knows.
Send you bullshit you don't want. Send it right to it.
Yeah. We'll have to talk to Gordie about releasing the copyright to maybe allow the Around Comics Cheap Trick shirt into the store. We already had one request.
That would be cool to put that in the shop, a classic comic shirt. If you
we had a request earlier, someone saying release. I think it was Cam Smalley said release the Cheap Trick shirt.
Yeah, I think it's Cafe Press is where I initially did it, so it might still exist.
Well, we'll have to clear that with you, Gordo. It's cleared.
It's cleared.
Okay.
Handshake. Handshake.
Contractually binding. All right, excellent. All right. Hey,
we have to clear wait a minute. We have to clear the trademark that he stole from us.
I didn't steal anything.
We have to clear the trademark of our name and the design.
I had a great idea.
He stole from us and Cheap Trick.
Just
Okay.
covering our bases, pal.
Yeah. No, I see.
All right. Well, Gordie, I think I can say this pretty easily. Dude, you're welcome back anytime. If Tom, comes down with a flu or whatnot, you will be at the top of the list. We had a great time talking with you. I hope people enjoy it. Wide-ranging conversation. We'll be back again.
We talk comics until like hour 45.
I know. Yeah.
It's okay. It's what we do. We'll be back next Sunday, 8:00 Central Standard Time. In the meantime,
in between
time,
we'll be everywhere in
and around comics.
Go Sox. You're going to be good. I'm there.
I don't think I've had this much fun in a long fucking time.
Oh, it's awesome, dude.
It was so wonderful. So wonderful. Lovely.